Well, another classic case of the military industrial complex slave industry, and I don't use that word slave lightly because that's exactly what prison industries is. It's slave industry. They're making Kevlar helmets, deuce gear, and that type of stuff, and they're finding out that through a report after umpteen years of problems, that the Kevlar helmets being sold to the military are defective. In fact, defective. And I'll just give you a real briefly from this report. Federal prison inmates in Beaumont, Texas manufactured more than 100,000 defective helmets for the U.S. military, right? The helmets had a slew of defects, including serious ballistic failures, ballistics, and improper mounting hole placement and dimensions, as well as helmets being repressed, degraded or unauthorized ballistic materials, expired paint, unauthorized manufacturing methods, and it's almost like they're trying to blame the inmates on this, and it ain't their fault, to tell you the truth, because you dig down in the report, you find it out they're being directed to do this. This is interesting too, because since 1971, when Tricky Dick, President Richard Nixon, declared war on drugs, the incarceration rate went up exponentially. Then in 1984, the Sentencing Reform Act, SRA, under Nixon, and then, they're not mentioning it in here, but also under Clinton, the three strikes and you're out, which is in the 90s over here, everything skyrocketed. We got more people in prison per capita than anywhere in the world. It's worse over here than it is in China. I mean, everybody say, "Oh, the communist nations in China," it's worse over here. And they're trying to get something out of these prisoners, but it's not even their fault that these things are substandard products. So, so all these Kevlar helmets were recalled, costing the government more than $19 million. Great, man. $19 million, okay? So that's Armor Source, the federal prison industries established, supposedly, this is the other clincher, educated to, funded, established to educate inmates to help them find work. Well, you know what? They're exporting all the manufacturing jobs out of the United States anyway, so how the hell, where are they going to find work? In manufacturing. I mean, maybe it's not going to be in helmets, but you think, oh, some other manufacturing job. Well, I don't think so. They're not going to find work anywhere because they're exporting all the jobs anyway. So this is bullshit. They're not going to help them find work. And, they're keeping them in here. So they also pre-selected helmets for screening. Now, the inmates didn't do this. It was prison industries. It was the ones that are in charge of them. It wasn't like, oh, the inmates got a freaking financial incentive to get all these helmets through. No, they don't. Prison industries does. The management. So, substandard products have been coming out to the military through prison industries. That's why they're getting rid of this prison industry stuff too. I mean, I've seen other articles where it's going by the wayside. But they ought to just release like freaking most of these people in prison. Actually, there's an estimate, and this is per, I think it was the FBI, that about 10% or up to 10% of the people in prison did not even commit a crime. But other people in the know that maybe like our cops and stuff will tell you it might be more like 20%, 1 out of 5, did not even commit a crime and they're in prison. And then they're trying to get more out of them by working them. Like in the, this is the concentration camps of the Nazis that the Jews had to go put up with, except they're doing it for the U.S. military. It's sick, So anyway, actually another thing too, they did they did some of the inspections of the helmets over a fax machine. In other words, they took a fax, a picture, a fax, and they faxed the picture over to somebody. A fax machine, which isn't accurate at all. Then somebody looked at the picture coming through on a fax machine and said, "Oh, that's good. That's a good inspection. Pass." Yeah, right. So anyway, and I just got a further remark. Anybody that works in the prison system, they got to be some kind of psycho. Why the hell would you want to work in a prison system? Say, you as an average American, would you want a job guarding prisoners unless you got some kind of crazy psychos where you get off on freaking being in charge of people and I own these fuckers, why the hell would you want to do that shit? I don't know. It's nuts. So I think a lot of people, I think the whole thing is a big bunch of garbage, man. Actually, I think the correctional facility people ought to be put behind the bars. I know nobody makes these remarks, even in the comments on YouTube, but I'm telling you out openly that, it's a criminal, and I mean criminal in caps, correctional facilities. That's exactly what it is. So much shit going on, and then they're trying to make it sound like, oh, incarcerating these people is helping to provide things to the military. Well, it's not even the ones that are incarcerated they're screwing up. It's the ones that are in charge of them that are doing this lackadaisical shit job. Because, the prisoners aren't getting by the management. How the hell are they doing that? They're just doing what the hell they're told to do. Sure, you think honestly, you think they'd freaking want to screw this crap up? They're not getting paid for it anyway. If they are, was it $1 a day? So, for crying out loud, man. It's like ridiculous. So, anyway, just got, it's, USA has gone so freaking downhill. It's like, we're the beacon of freedom? No more. It's really gotten to the point where everything's standing on its head today, literally, and I'm showing a helmet here. That's exactly what's going on. The United States is no longer the beacon of freedom. There's no way around it. And this exemplifies exactly that type of situation. Not only is probably up to 1/5 the people in federal prisons not guilty of any crimes whatsoever, on top of it, you got a draconian system with the war on drugs with, I can't even mention it on here on YouTube, but I guess I'll say in general, the war on drugs is a farce. Drugs are being brought in by some of the most powerful freaking politicians in this country for profit. It funds the CIA, it funds the black ops, and they're having prisoners supposedly make the helmets and the deuce gear, the 782 gear, supply to the military to save money. But it's not the problem. It's not even the prisoners that are doing the lousy substandard work. It's actually prison industries and the management. Because if they're doing substandard work, the management should easily correct it right away or not let the shit get through. But no. Hey, it's just going to the military. Screw them, right? So, just another example of the hypocrisy of what's going on in the old government. I don't understand how, why America's even putting up with this bullshit anymore. There should be massive, the problem is, people aren't seeing it in your face just how many people are incarcerated. What it really should be, there should be massive protests over people that are incarcerated in the United States. There really should be. Absolutely, no doubt about it. And the problem is, since it's shielded from the public vision, that nobody's actually complaining about it. Out of sight, out of mind. But it's a major problem. If there's one thing that's a slave situation in the United States, to tell you the truth, you're looking back to the time, everybody's like saying, oh, look what happened with the blacks in the United States. Slavery. You know what? The situation that's going on with people I guess it's people of all colors, but also people of color in the United States with incarceration in federal prisons, it's worse than the freaking slavery that was going on in the 1800s in the United States. It's worse. It's worse, man. Who the hell wants to be inside a freaking cell? These things aren't air conditioned. They're 95 degrees and stuff. They got tent cities, for crying out loud, even in Arizona, that are prisons, tent cities even, believe it or not. And, it's like, it's sick. It's beyond sick. And they're trying to make these people get more work out of these people, and then they're telling them, they're almost making this excuse that, oh, well, it's the prisoners that screwed up. Well, no, it's not the prisoners that screwed up. Because even if the prisoners screwed up, obviously nobody's watching what the hell's going on, and they're deliberately letting all this crap get through, these substandard products, so they can just sell them to the unsuspecting military. It's ridiculous. And how many years did this take for this to, stop? It had to be like a bunch of heinous freaking things that were so substandard. It wasn't like the helmets were a little substandard. I mean, people are getting stuff out in the field and seeing, well, I can't put my miles gear on here, or I can't put my night vision equipment on here, it doesn't fit, or this says medium and I know I take a medium and this medium fits and this other medium don't fit, or I sat on my helmet and it cracked in half, you know. They're finding out that way, not through the inspections of the federal prison industries. I'm telling you, man, they ought to freaking make this whole prison system just. Maybe I'm a little too liberal in some ways. Maybe I am. But somehow, if other countries can do it, why can't we? What's wrong with the system? You know what's wrong with the system? It's actually the U.S. government's bringing in the drugs, and the U.S. government is, besides bringing in the drugs, is incarcerating the shit out of the people for doing drugs. Then on top of it, they got some of the biggest psychos in the world that get hired into these correctional facilities to run them. It's a pretty piss poor system. That's all I got to tell you, man. Well, I mean, what the hell can I tell you, man? Over and out. It's just a bad deal, and I just want to make people aware of it. What can I do about it? I don't know. Nothing. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. But it's another thing telling you that the United States is not the beacon of freedom anymore at all. And it's amazing. And honestly, even these, maybe I'm sounding liberal, but it's people like supposed liberals, like, I know it's been Nixon, it's been Reagan too, but even Bill Clinton, he was a big one that put a lot of blacks in prison in the 90s with his 3 strikes and you're out bullshit. And I'm telling you right now, that's wrong. Like, you get away with all kinds of shit if you can afford an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, you don't get away with nothing. I don't call that a justice system at all. I call that kind of justice system totally criminal. Criminal against we the people. And it's sick.